Pokemon Showdown is a platform that allows players with all ranges of resources to get better at Pokemon competitively. But my one-dimensional caveman brain was wondering one thing. How do I Nuzlocke this? Well, this is what I came up with. Heads up, if you don't care about the rules and stuff, just skip to the timestamp on screen. I basically did a Nuzlocke of Ultra Moon, which was also my first time playing a Gen 7 game. But for every encounter I got, I played a match in the Gen 7 Rambats category on Pokemon Showdown. If I won, I got to spin a wheel of all Pokemon that survived the fight, with legendaries, pseudos, and such banned Pokemon being subbed for free space. Meaning, I would essentially get a random number between all the 807 Pokemon in this game, which brings me to another point, the species clause. I normally do it for the whole evolution line, but I thought it would be funnier if this time it was for a specific Pokemon. In other words, I cannot get 2 Charjabug's, but if I get a Charjabug and a Vikavolt, I have to use both. But if I lose the match, not only do I not get an encounter, I roll a different wheel. A wheel with all my current Pokemon, to see which one will pay for my incapability. All of this was added to my standard Nuzlocke rule set, that is in the description. Oh, and also, I don't think I really understood how to do level caps in this game, so take those with a grain of salt. With all that yapping out of the way, let's start today's adventure. Hot Professor Jumpscare! Then, we watch our first cutscene. Surely those won't get mentally draining later, right? Well, the starter doesn't really matter, since it'll be gone immediately, but hey, it's my first Rowlet, okay? This fight doesn't really need explanation, so I'll add the rule I forgot about instead. If the opponent forfeits immediately without using a single move, we have to re-roll the fight, since I don't want handouts. Oh, okay, look, we won! Yay! I wonder what awesome and powerful starter I get. Oh, I should have predicted that. How wanted to fight right away, and with the insane support set this Comfey gets right off the bat, the showdown stall wasn't over. Leech Seed takes a while, but the seal eventually goes down, and as a vendetta, I get murdered? The school gets us another battle. Yep, understand the rule now? Oh look, another one! Third time is the charm, right? This one actually fights me, and I immediately get played by a Plossel. Luckily, this was a sick team. Excadrill took care of my misplay, Azu killed the Scrafty, Probopass handled the Flare-Blitz from Entei, and in the greatest upset in history, Unfezant's returns murder a Dragonite. Bisharp then kills the Ideal Prophet from this fight, and I try to outplay the Sucker Punches, but let's face it, I wouldn't want an Unfezant either. The Bulk Up Mewtwo set made him gain some thighs, and with one Drain Punch, we finally earn the forfeit. Or, I mean the guy bails, and I gotta wait a minute, but we get there. The first free space of the run gets me a C-Dot, which works as a loose fodder, I guess. We're also lucky enough to catch an Abra, and with a Volcarona Quiver Dance sweep followed by another Bail, we spin the wheel and earn the Fire Moth. Don't get too excited though, the level up set is really ass after Hala, who we first gotta get by defeating Ilma. Yeah, Quiver Dance is not as OP if you need at least 4 of them for it to actually matter. But the Veil with Leech Seed got me, so I really cannot complain. After Ilma, we say hi to my favorite Pokemon and get straight into another battle. This one starts rough, as Diancie is usually a pain to deal with. But after one Scald, Swanna lives a Diamond Storm. And to cement herself even more, the second Scald gets the burn. Due to the leftovers, it lives the first burn hit. Mamo Ice Shards, and Guts Hariyama eventually kills my Victory Bell. I stupidly don't Mega Evolve the Aerodactyl when given the chance, so even though it kills Harimama, Krog just ratios. My team gets completely withered down, and even though Mamoswine is against all odds able to kill the Mega Aggron, Stoutland finishes it off to hand us the first loss of the run. And due to all the praise, the RNG gods claim my starter. But no time to be sad, we got more encounters on the way. Yeah, we got another quitter, but this time, we win big. Haxorus is not only one of the few non-pseudo dragons I get to use, but it also has Dragon Rage very early. Meaning, despite the first totem looking really tough, the Raticate barely manages to inhale before a single Dragon Rage takes it out. I get the weird rock it was guarding and steal its child to turn into another beast. Or I would have if my Hypno didn't get frozen. For 11 straight turns, letting the opposing Suicune set up. Yeah, then my Arcanine falls asleep and we take another L. The wheel spins at excellent pace and lands on the perfect Pokemon to get rid of. I hope my luck doesn't run out anytime soon. Well, not here, as the opponent attacks exactly once before a forfeit. Just how I like them. Oh, we also get a Caterpie and break the Geneva Convention with melodic toxic recover strats for a damn Cursola. Smoochum then allows me to cook a little deer and we get the goat out of it, which finally forces me into my first kahuna, Hala. His team is really easy to counter considering I have a Volcarona, but the Crabroller can still make waves. After the Quiver Dance setup, we absorb the Machop and Makuhita as expected. But as Hala's Ace activates Flame Body, I switch for good measure. Haxorus Dragon Rages, and we get to our level cap. Listen, I knew I could Dragon Rage through the whole fight, but that felt kinda cheaty. We take some photos, you know, just in case something horrible happens, but we'll be fine. No bad things can happen to this team. Well, Grubhub lets the funny D's Nuts joke kill a Mega, for which we get him as a hire. How takes my Z-card with Breakneck Blitz that doesn't do shit. Go-Goat then kills the Bryony, and the goated Coral murders the wannabe Pseudobat as well as the Pikachu without getting the boost. As Eevee enters, I know Corsola got me, which will continue to be a theme this run. We get into our first Team Skull Scuffle, which is the perfect moment for me to mention I'll be skipping all of their fights except Guzma, since they get really repetitive. We catch a Mareep and then enter another tough fight. I switch my lead into Noctowl on what I hoped to be Earth Power and get rid of the rocks with Defog. We do a bit of damage with Hurricane as the rocks go back up. I sag the Owl to get rid of them again and then kill the Landfish with the Deep Sea Fish. Illumise paralyzes my favorite dog Pokemon as I assume it switches and go for Swords Dance. Corsola comes out and yeah, I get fully paralyzed. We live a hit though, and then Drill Run for the kill. Aggron Toxics Illumise, and against the Umbreon, I show I learned my lesson, and Mega it. But that doesn't really help me, since my team was already severely hindered, and Illumise is the one to deliver the final blows. Yeah, you think that sucks? Check this wheel out. I swear to God, the one Pokemon that actually had potential for the Elite Four. Time for more, I guess. We get another early Bale, and get the Pokemon I wanted to use for the longest time. And the cutest form of it too, like, look at it. Yeah, we just got ourselves a new Elite Four member. Mark my words. The next trial was really cool, as I expected it to be wishy-washy, but instead, the big-ass Araquanid arose from the shallows. Which was great and all, but with Swalot's Acid Spray lowering its SPDEF and Oricorio's Air Cutter, it didn't last very long. We also used the unassuming Poison type and its Acid Spray to beat the shit out of this outwardly alien Poison God. Got a Diglett who summoned Lunala onto the Showdown squad, and with Shadow Shield, they had to yield. Don't get too excited though, we got a Delcatty. But don't fret either. I made sure to encounter a Salandit and throw the next match so Delcatty can immediately get the boot. Oh, also I know you see the Shift Tree. No, it's not the same one. we just toxic stalled again and barely got it by the wheel. But now, it's time to get hot. This trial was genuinely fun, as it used the greatest Alolan concept, which also happened to be the totem. I had to prep a decent strategy for this one, as most of our box was weak to fire. Oricorio turned one workup into Baton Pass to Corsola with the Z Crystal seemed good enough, and yeah, it was, as Marowak got sniffed out and we earned another shiny round. The next encounter meant another chance at Noivern. As my Pyroar actually managed to land a Fire Blast turn 1, then I apparently ran into a Choice Scarfed Kyogre, which feels weird, but Pyroar wasn't a huge loss. Noivern also landed a Hurricane plus Confusion on Mandibuzz, and with Magnezone on this team, I had the clean advantage. Then another Shiftry got frozen, and I know when to cut my losses. Magnezone hit Pinsir hard on the switch, and the Mega didn't necessarily help. Noivern got bailed by RNG on Thraw, and I knew I had to keep it alive if I wanted to get it. I kinda just murdered my own Pheromosa, and Magnezone finished the Mandibuzz as well as the Big Fish. Well, in this 50-50, you can't really go wrong. I invited all my Pokemon to a cookout, but this massive Lurentis came from nowhere. And I didn't really have a bite to offer her, so my Pokemon went to take care of it. The Oricorio can really handle his own, killing Lurentis' accomplice, while also taking the totem's HP down with Air Cutter. Swalot was then invited to finish the fight with a Baton Pass, and Lurentis was hungry no more. This Steenie was huge for us, since despite our Clefable dying turn 1 to Mew's Z-move, the Chansey Stallfest claimed my opponent's 2 Pokemon, as well as their sanity, and we rolled for an encounter, which honestly couldn't go better. With the Stone Age Pupper, we went to face another Kahuna, an Elite Four member, Olivia. She has a dog of her own, with the difference that hers is addicted to meth. Anorith got Rock Tombed, the Lileep did way too much damage for Lycanroc's, well, liking, so Gogoat went in and just Razor Leafed. And for the Crag Dog, let's say we had a special program scheduled, an interpretive dance number with a light taste of doom, which let Gogoat vaporize the Hound in an instant. With our level cap raised again, we went to deal with the weird jellyfish who just ran like a coward. And that made this lady sad. We get a couple more encounters, but the only one worth mentioning was this Walrein battle. We do-shot the Hippowdon as it sets up rocks. Out comes Rotom, and I figure out the best course of action is just to Toxic and hope for the best. My opponent goes for a big brain play and tricks its choice item onto me for my leftovers. So I switch to Volbeat, who really doesn't do much before dying. We then continue Toxic Stalling through the Kingdra, and with Alolan Muck, even the Rotom doesn't escape its fate. My opponent then shows his own Volbeat, but at this point, no missed moves can derail me. Muck tanks everything and gunk shots his way to victory. We actually rolled another Volcarona, which changes to its polar opposite. I also forgot to press record on the next fight, but my foe left, so you can read through it while the timer runs out, if you want. Anyway, we got a Venipede. Then we found some batteries and powered the Steel Abomination for the next totem trial. It's actually Togedemaru. That puts me to ease, to an extent where I click the wrong Z move. Well, we then slow down with Bulldoze, and as Skarmory comes out, the Leech Seed gives Togi a strict verdict. I then switch through my team, and with a bit of chippies, eventually wear the bowling ball down with Scolipede. And the Skarmory? Yeah, Mienshao does the same thing to him as well. Not the most honorable of strategies, but I don't play for glory here. And speaking of glory, Guzma wanted his moment in the sun. I still think this guy was super unused in this game. Like, why give him 2 Pokemon here? Magnezone unleashes Gigavolt Havoc on the faux Golisopod, barely not killing it, but triggering the emergency exit. Meaning, it's time for Muscarine to get super overcharged with Magnezone's beams. Golisopod then barely doesn't kill Oricorio, as I expected first impression instead of Razor Shell. But the yellow bird gets the job done. Guzma freaks out, and I decide to get another Pokemon. And this fight was really interesting. Probably my favorite one out of the whole video when I think about it. We start with Qwilfish against the Marowak, and I hope my opponent predicts spikes and actually use Waterfall, which pays off as Diancie steps right into it. Wailord eats the next hit without an issue, and I actually set up the toxic spikes this time. Or maybe just one spike? No toxic poison in this house, I guess. Diancie gets poisoned and seeded on her second entry, and with no way out, my opponent just goes for the Mega. Exactly for similar shenanigans, I protect it, meaning Diancie dies nameless and without a ceremony. Marowak brings some swag onto the field, as he gets seeded as well. So far, my opponent is really just fighting a Sisyphean battle, but that might change any second. This Swords Dance was not gonna break the camel's back, as I knew I had the choice between Protect and Substitute as my answer. I decide to sub just in case he switched, or set up for any reason. Marowak succumbs to hazards, and out comes Miltank. Leech Seed proves fatal here, as the sap-sipping cow gets buffed. It starts to curse itself up even more. Yeah, this will be an issue. I try with Moonblast, but see I'm just no match. And with Milk Drink on this set, stalling is out of the question as well. I try the Wobbuffet strat, but get paralyzed from the first body slam and fully paralyzed the next turn. I also forget how Gustab Berry works and sacrifice it to the next body slam. Yeah, this could have been over already. I get Qwilfish back in and Waterfall, but then I change my mind and realize the Toxic might be better for the rest of the Unseen team. Qwilfish pays the price. Rat steps in to actually do some work in this battle, and the paralysis strikes again. Circle Throw misses and Body Slams keep the hard hits coming. I rest up to get rid of the status, and with Sleep Talk, Ollie goes for, rest. Never mind, we can go for it again, and this time it goes rest. Cool. Well, on the third turn, we wake up and successfully rid the field from this foul beast. And I just click the move again. Yeah, it sends the demonic cow back on the field. With it being almost dead, I click Scald and Pray. But of course he heals. I rest again, hoping for a better Sleep Talk luck. First turn, we get rest. But the next one turns into Scald. Eventually, I just result back into Circle Throw. We uncover the last team slot, and I get cocky again, not realizing the speed of this fat-ass monkey, the heroic Poli. Finally rests forever. Tyranitar comes in, and I know the king cannot retreat, so I get a free D-Dance off. I expect to switch next turn and go for damage, along with the Mega, which brings Wailord to a guaranteed KO next turn. My opponent sees that it's better to let it go. Butterfree re-enters, and I hit him with Stone Edge. The battle seems over. T-Tar lifts EQ from slacking and sees the checkmate is close. But then, I do the dumbest fucking thing I've seen anyone on Showdown do, and switch back into Whimsicott. That alone is not that bad, but the fact that my dumbass clicks the Leech Seed on the Sap Sippermon twice in one fight? Yeah, I hate it more and more every fucking time I look at this. Anyway, we lose Whimsicott and the Mega T-Tar. Celebi murders that fucking cow, and slacking finishes me off. To be fair, I completely deserve to lose like half of my fucking box for that one. But instead, we just say goodbye to Corsola. I find a Torkoal for another very entertaining Showdown fight, with me finally winning the bully role. Right off the bat, I expected to go for setup and Brave Bird the sub away. Then they switch into Solrock, and I respond with Samurott. The Rockies go up, and I expect the switch, so I just knock off. Which pays off, getting rid of Tortora's lefties. I switch into Glalie on the EQ, and this time take my chances with the Mega. Golisopod gets brought below half, but then still just kills my Ice Cube. Starmie avenges it, and Samurott comes face to face with Solrock once again. Magnezone switches in to immediately Volt Switch into the Moth again, and we basically do the same circle around our teams, until Farfetch'd crits Leaf Blade before dying to Stone Edge. Liepard murders the Rock, and with Prankster Thunderwave, it wins the 1v1 against Venomoth as well. Even though barely. We sack it to Volt Switch so I can Ice Beam the Torterra away before turning my cannons against both Magnezone and Victini. In this 50-50, I literally cannot lose, but Ribombee just chooses me. We head into our next trial. This one seemed really scary, no pun intended, with the Mimikyu rocking its disguise and some really tough friends to help her out. I had to pull all my stops while preparing for it. Magnezone tanks the first hit and flash cannons through the disguise as Mimikyu calls for backup. With the disguise now broken, I'm free to click the Steel Z move, but as the opposing Shadow Claw crits, I know Magnezone's road ends here. At least it ends with a bang, as Corkscrew Crash knocks Mimikyu to red, and Bayonet claims the metal scraps for later. Gliscor comes out, absorbs the hit, and finishes the toughest totem yet with some acrobatics. We pay a visit to an old friend, who I can't say is all that thrilled to see us. Another Guzma fight begins, but this one really doesn't seem that hard. The Golisopod tastes Lycanroc's newly learned technique that crushes continents, which triggers his ability and sends out Pinsir. Ribombee clears the field for Oricorio, who air slashes the horny buck to oblivion with a crit, and after one air slash, dances to Guzma's revelation. Last but not least is the lead Golisopod, for which there's just one fitting answer. Cradily Ancient powers the last bits of Guzma's team, and we return this old man his poor weasel before challenging him to a battle. This guy really just feels like a prototype for Larry from Scarlet and Violet. He uses dark types, which our fairy buck Ribombee appreciates. Draining Kiss knocks out Sableye, the rude cat gets danced on. Not that it was necessary, but I'm just having fun with these. Like, look what's happening on screen right now. Krokorok is last, but since he isn't even fully evolved yet, 2 Draining Kisses do the trick. You know, one on each cheek. With that, our level cap moves again, and we get to finally finish the Team Skull story. Gladion just stands there, so I have to intervene, and even though I look like there's nothing going on behind those eyes, Guzma still wants to fight me. Nothing to read into there at all. The Golisopod is first again, because this man never learns. Rock Slide hits the lowest roll, not triggering the ability, but clinching the buck, so the next hit scares him away. Vikavolt is an actually problematic addition to this team, which is why we dance the fear away. Still just using this boring animation, but don't worry, that'll change in a minute. For now, we just squish, slash, and dance the little goobers until Guzma surrenders. This weird woman doesn't like her kids, so she lets her frustration out on me. And I gotta say it surprised me how Lusamine wasn't the champion here, as she gets the most explored storyline and still the coolest intro card. Her Clefable comes face to face with Durant, who crits the first Metal Claw, shortening the pink plushie's lifespan. Lopunny deserves a real hunk, so I get Boufalant onto the field. Dizzy Punch is fine. I'm just not sure what that would do to the Steel Ant, but my reversal strats are not necessarily perfect either, so who am I to talk? Beware dives to a fly, and Melodic gets the cutscene treatment. Lusamine then becomes a terrorist, which Guzma is really into for some reason, so he just joins her. My next encounter gets me to exercise my Ditto rights, stealing the buffs from both Marshadow and Drampa, earning me the pink blob on my team. There's a reason why I mentioned it, by the way. Team Skull blocked the way, so we just committed mass genocide. The combo O sounds tough in theory, and don't get me wrong, the combo of a buff totem and fast Noivern boom burst is hard to deal with. But since my Gliscor has acrobatics, all I need was a proper setup before Noivern even got in. And then just to live a hit, which we managed, with acrobatics leaving the totem on a sliver, I knew I needed a big finisher. Oh, excuse me, a bug finisher. And you know I had to do it in style, with one of the most savage spinouts for the homies. Oricorio wanted all the praise, so he finished the annoying bat, and we got the weird blue rock, which is definitely going to come handy later. We blew some whistles, baby, and activated an interdimensional portal. You know, as you do, the murderous ashtray flew out and turned into Dracula? Well, that didn't really matter, as he got cucked by an awesome monster from the shadows. And made love? Which only meant one thing. Time for cardio. Seriously, why are there so many stairs? And how the hell am I not winded? Rolling around at the speed of sound. As we got treated to yet another cutscene, showing the real potential of this light demon from outer space, I realized my team wasn't ready. We needed some real ballers for this to be manageable. You know, like Ditto and Spiritomb. Yeah, we also got a Spiritomb a while back, but I didn't mention it since it didn't really do much, and spoiler, it won't really do much here either. The scariest fight of this game began, and Spiritomb led the way to click one single sucker punch, just to guarantee the range for his pal, before fucking dying. Ditto got out, and yeah, as you expected, got outsped and one-shot. Just kidding, that's what the sash is for. It transformed into my own little Ultra Necrozma. And with that, one Dragon Pulse made quick work of the cheap copy. It fell on the ground and the two creatures divorced, for which these robots gave me their child. Yeah, I decided not to play Showdown for this one, as it's a gift Pokemon and an Ultra Beast. Plus, I just beat an uber legendary 6 levels higher than the level cap is, so I chose a freebie. Which turned into Mandibus. We collected a bunch of leaves and finally showed the cooler Lycanroc Z move, before this lady just sent the squad right in, without any warning or anything. The Totem Ribombee got hyped up to be the hardest one, but with the team I had, it didn't feel like it. I mean, look at the disrespect from my Gigalith. He was there to get the job done, and for me, he became a hero that day. I don't really think I ever used him again, to be fair. Mandibus earned his final screen, and with that, the Totem Challenge was over. Yeah, this video is getting way too long for me to continue with the rest, so I'll leave the Hapu Kahuna with the final couple of Showdown battles and the Elite Four for next time. And let me tell you, you're gonna wanna see how this run ends. One of the most complicated final battles I've ever been through. But for today, my job here is done. So I'll see you in part 2 next time. Such a cool misclick, don't you think? So fun. I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I misclicked that. Holy shit, I lost.